You're gonna have to give me your Twitch.
Okay. So yeah, if you guys haven't already, download Fusion 360 on the computers. If you need help, ask me or any one of the campaign leads will help you. We're going to start in a couple of minutes.
It's annoying that the desktops make you re-download every time because it's just the way the school desktops work. So that's why we usually encourage if you have like a personal device to bring it. But it's up to you guys. It really doesn't take that long.
And yeah, we got a survey up here. It's just a couple quick questions.
Is that still the sign-in sheet?
Yes. Yeah, we changed it.
Oh, you changed it?
We put in a new one yesterday.
Well, no, that's the sign-in for the...
Oh,
yeah, that's the...
Oh, that's not the survey. That's just the sign-in. I don't know. They all look like squares with...
Well, this square, you could tell it's the attendance because it's ugly and has a million dots on it.
Yeah, because it says sign-in right above
Well, technically a survey can be a sign-in survey.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But
Yeah.
Put it on the shopping block.
do you guys go straight into making stuff right away? Or
No,
do you have,
we're gonna go through just some
you
folder
can probably
making.
start like now-ish.
Okay.
And then, while people are downloading,
Hi.
you
Yeah, yeah.
just take your time.
Yeah, sure. All right.
Pretty good.
I give it a solid 7.
Right.
We can make it.
All right, guys. So we're gonna be getting started with this week's session. We're gonna go through some file management stuff, and then we're gonna go to some simple, basic tools, and then we're gonna talk about collaborating projects with different people. So quick Q&A. We had these questions week 1. I figured I'd relay them to you guys this week. If you can't make it to a session, what do? We have a Slack channel that I post all the meeting slides, video, and minutes to every week after each session. If you miss a session, do not panic. You can find those there, and you can go through them at your own pace, step by step. So what things will we make in this course? Our plan is to have you guys go from learning CAD for the first time to full proficiency by the end of the semester. So what we want out of you guys is for you guys to come up with your own designs from scratch with your own creative brains and be able to 3D print them and show them off at the end of the semester, which will be really cool. So in terms of difficulty, like I said, we're going to go from basic knowledge to more advanced tools at the end of the semester. So yeah, as long as you kind of stay on top of it every week, maybe look at the slides, you guys will be good. And lastly, Jordan mentioned this already, but it is recommended you bring your laptops just so that you can avoid having to re-download Fusion over and over again. Okay. So this week we're going to be going over file management, sweep, shell, and collaborating. Yeah. And that's the link to our Slack if you guys want to take a picture of that. I post everything there. So when you open up Fusion, you're going to see something similar to this. Maybe you guys got grid lines on yours. I don't know them, but we usually want to start with making proper file management systems before we kind of go into making 1,000 different projects for whatever we're working on. So something that we want to instill in you guys early on is just how to name them, store them properly, and where to find them. So if you guys want to look at the top left, we have this button, Show Data Panel. That is essentially your directory for any Fusion 360 projects that you have. So it's this little 3x3 block here, and if we click it, we can see that we have some default projects that Fusion puts in for us automatically, and we can go into any of them. If we have a project in there, it'll be there for you to look at. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new project, and this will be the folder. If I can click on it, there we go. This will be the project that we're going to be using for the entirety of this session or semester. So I'm going to name it something ASME CAD training spring 2022, something like that, right? Give it a little time and it'll load up for you. So we can double click on it and go in there, and we can, create more folders, be a little bit more organized. Whatever naming system, whatever file directory system works for you, just do that. We just want to make sure that you know what types of parts are in where, and how to access them. So I'm going to create a new folder for this week's session. So I'm going to say week 3. And here's where I'm going to make all of the parts that we're going to be working on today. And so once you're here, you can go up to the top left again, right next to our data panel. We can hide it, open it, and right next to it we can see the drop down for file. And so we're going to click on this, and we're going to go to New Design. New Design will create a new tab for us. It's just like another window. And we can save that design if we click the same file drop down, go down to Save. And here you can see I have a little prompt allowing me to name it whatever. So I'm going to name it week 3 again because I'm not creative. And as we can see, the location is where we want it. If it's not where you want it, you can go in here and move it anywhere else, any other project that you have in your account. That's where I want it, so I'm going to just click week 3, and I'm going to save it. And as we can see on the left, it is now creating my week 3 part. So now that we've done that, you can create as many parts as you want. You can store them wherever you want to store them, whatever folder. Just we recommend that it's organized so that when you do have larger projects, such as one of the design teams, you can kind of organize it and find something very quickly. So we're going to start by creating a sketch. When I hit Create Sketch, I'm going to be prompted with these 3 planes. We talked about this stuff in the first week, but I'm just going to go give a little bit of a rundown. We've got the X, Y, XZ, and YZ. I personally don't find that it makes too much of a difference where you start, but in terms of following with me, I'm going to choose the plane that's adjacent to the red and green axes. So here, and slow me down if I'm going too fast. Just raise your hand or ask any of the training leads around you. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the Create bar. I'm going to hit the drop down, go to Rectangle, and we have 3 different options for a rectangle. If we hover over them, it gives us a little description for what each of them does. And this can be useful in different projects depending on what you need or what you prefer. I'm just going to do 2-point rectangle, and I'm going to go to the origin here. I'm going to place the first corner, and as you can see, we've got 2 different dimensions, a width and a height, or length, I should say, a width and a length. And whatever my blue text is, that's the dimension that I'm editing. So as you can see, we're editing the length now. I'm going to make this the length. I'm going to say that length should be 3 inches. Oh, and if you are in, I forgot to mention this, but I will now. If you want to change your units, hit the drop down on Document Settings, hit Active Units, and we can make, if you're in millimeters, which I know some of you might be, You can hit inches and set it as default if you prefer. Forgot to mention that. I apologize. Okay, so where were we? We're gonna make our rectangle. Rectangle up here. All right, so we're gonna make a 3 inch by 3 inch square. You can tab over on your dimensions and it'll lock it in place. Once both of my dimensions are locked, I'm just gonna hit enter or finish, or enter, yeah, I'm gonna hit enter. And it'll create a 3 inch by 3 inch square. All right. So now that that's done, I'm gonna hit finish sketch. And I'm gonna get it to a position where I can extrude it with ease. So you can use this little cube up here and turn it. If you're on a mouse, you can hold shift and middle mouse button and you can rotate it that way as well. Whichever you find helps you control it the best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to the Create tab. I'm going to hit Extrude. As we can see, Extrude, we get a little description for what it does. It's just going to allow us to give a third dimension to our sketch. So what I can do is I can drag my cube up, I can drag it down, depending on where I want to extrude it. I'm going to drag this cube up 3 inches. And for now, the default settings are fine. We're creating a new body. Everything looks good. So none of the default settings have to be changed. So once that's done, hit OK. Now we've got our nice cube. So now we're going to go into one of our 2 tools that we're going to learn today, shell. So if we go up to the modify section of the toolbar, you can hover over the shell tool and we can get a little description of what it does. So it's going to hollow out our piece from one side, it's going to hollow out one of our pieces from any side that we give it. So we can hit shell and we're prompted by the program to give us a face. So I'm going to hit this top face up here. Okay. And now I can drag my arrow inwards or outwards and make the border around this cube thicker or thinner, depending on how I feel like. If you zoom out, your units which you can change this, they grow a little bigger. If you zoom in, the increments are a little smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this 0.5. And then I'm going to hit OK. And so if you ever have a part that you need to hollow out from one side, you'd use the shell tool. Yeah. And if you want to go back and change anything, you can go to the timeline on the bottom and double click the action that we did. Double click it and we can, if I want it to be 1 inch instead, I can change it there. So that's a useful thing to note. So that's it for the shell tool. Now we're going to go and learn how to use the sweep tool. So if you will, flip your cube so that we can see the unshelled face on top. We're going to be creating a new sketch on this face. So I'm going to go up to create, hit create sketch. And I could choose one of these axes, but I'm just going to choose this face. There. And so I'm going to go up to the create section again, create a center diameter circle. And if you hover over your face, you can kind of see that it snaps you to any one of the middle sections, middle axes of this square face that we have. And I'm going to try and find the center. There. So once you find your center, hit your center place point there, and we're going to make a circle, maybe 1.5 inches. So my text was highlighted blue. I can change that to whatever I want, and I can hit enter, and it'll create a circle of 1.5 inches in diameter. So now once that's done, I'm going to hit finish sketch. Okay. And now I'm going to create a new sketch on any one of these sides that are perpendicular to the face of this circle. And this is where we're going to create the line path for which the circle can sweep on. So any one of these works, any one of the perpendicular sides here. So I'm going to choose this. And we can move our view cube in the sketch too. I'm going to move it so that I can get somewhere where I can better see what I'm doing. You can also hit any one of these buttons, these designated sections on the view cube, and it'll automatically snap you to that point. And what I want to do is I want to make it so that the circle that we had up here is on top, and we can kind of highlight over it when we drag over this edge. All right. So once we identified what side we want to work on, I'm going to go up to the create section and hit line. And I am just going to draw some segments starting from any one of the edges here. And it'll automatically snap you to that point as designated by the blue box with the cross in the side. So once I do that, once I find that, I'm going to just start creating some segments. Apologies, I'm going to do that over. So just creating some lines, and the idea here is that the circle that we had on top will follow this path that we have up here in our sweep. So once you have that final line drawn, you can hit escape, enter, and it'll finish that tool that you're using. And so once that happens, you can go finish sketch, and we can go to modify, create. My apologies, it's in create. Thank you, Jordan. We can go to create, and we can hit our sweep tool. And now we're prompted with clicking a profile, which is essentially just the 2D sketch that you want to sweep across the path. We want to sweep the circle that we drew on top. So I'm going to hit profile. I'm going to hit that circle. And now I'm going to go over to the path button and click that, and now we are choosing the path for which our circle can sweep on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over our little path here and click that. And as we will see, it'll create segments of our circle all the way up the path.
Why didn't you choose the center of the circle? Draw the path.
The center of the circle. So when we select a profile, we are just selecting a 2D sketch. I can select the center of the circle. Actually,
Why didn't you draw the path?
oh, why didn't I? You can. I'm just demonstrating. I mean, it's all up to you when you use this tool, right? So if I go back to the sketch where I made this, I can move this bottom line and just move it to the center. It all depends on what you want from your project, right? Some cases you might not want to have it in the center. Some cases you might. Anywho, you can finish the sketch, and I can just repeat the sweep along the path there. And now it'll just start it from the center, right? And we can hit OK once we have our sweep set. And now we have our beautiful whatever. I imagined this to be a little hook hand for some Lego pirate. Just to justify that I made something creative. And we don't even have to use, actually I'll wait for these guys to get cut up first. I was going to show them the arc, yeah, but I was just making sure. Okay, so you don't even have to use the line tool to draw your sweep path. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the previous sweep just so that I can start anew. And I'm going to double click the sketch that I made in the timeline and reorient it. And I'm going to delete this line. And instead, I'm going to use an arc. And so what I want to do is I want to go to Create. I'm going to go to Arc. And I'm going to choose a 3-point arc. So now, if I realign myself with the sketch, I can start my arc on any one of these points on the edge. I'll place the first point here. And I want to place the length of the arc from one end to the other. So I'll say maybe 3 inches out. And I'll angle it like this. And once you set that angle, you're going to be charged with drawing the curvature of the arc. So I'm going to just make it not too much. I hope it picked it up. Anybody want me to run over the arc drawing thing again? Just let me know. Okay. So I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to go to Create. I'm going to go to Arc and hit 3-point arc. And then, like my line, I'm going to start the first point on the edge of the cube. And the way Fusion requires you to draw this arc is that it requires you to draw the first point, the end point, and then the angle, and then it allows you to change the curvature of the arc after you have those 3 points set. So in this case, I don't really care what my length of the arc is in terms of the endpoints, just the distance between the 2 points. So I'm just going to click anywhere. And once I do, I'm going to be, I can change the curvature of the arc. So I won't make it too unwieldy, but something like that. Once I have that, I'm going to hit escape just so that I can leave the arc drawing. And I'm going to hit finish sketch. Sorry, I just need to redo it. Same process. They disappeared?
Yeah.
So what you want to do is, so I'm just going to recreate it. I don't know why it disappears after you delete the feature.
Oh, it just hides the sketch. It doesn't actually delete it.
How do you want to hide
So
it?
if you go to the drop down for sketches,
Oh.
and you just click the eyeball on the
Oh,
left.
okay, that will fix it.
So
Okay.
you
All
can
right.
tell everyone that.
Yeah, if anyone has had their sketch disappear, I didn't realize that it would do that. If you go to the sketch drop down on the left side, you can unhide any of the sketches that you made previously. I think that might have tripped some of you up. I apologize for that. Alright, so I'll wait till everyone's looking up just so that I make sure I'm not going too fast. And so, we can do something similar to before. We can go to create, go back to our sweep, and do the same thing, but now our path is this arced line instead of our segmented line from before. Hit OK on that, and we have our lot smoother of a hook hand. Yeah, what's up?
Got it?
And so as we can see, it's a pretty useful tool if you want to make any type of sweep in any shape you want it. We saw two different versions. And what if I want to keep both of those versions, right? So or not necessarily keep, but have those on file. So what I can do is I know there's been a lot of deleting, but I'm gonna just delete this sweep over here to where it's just my circle again. And I'm actually gonna delete this sketch as well. And so if I have this base cube, I can save this project as a starting point and just keep creating new projects that derive from this first step here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to I'm going to go back to File, and I'm just going to do Save As, and maybe we're going to say week 3 first. Save it in there. And if we go to Show Data Panel, and we go to our week 3 folder, we can see that we have our week 3 and week 3 first projects here. So what I can do is I can open this one, and I can just keep editing on top of this and changing it, and by hitting Save As every time.
Another thing I want to mention is if you're ever working on a project and you've been saving it a bunch, and let's say you totally mess something up and you want to go back, the little V1 here means that this is version 1. So you can always click this, and then it'll give you a list of all your previous saves. So if you ever want to go back to some previous version of the file, you can often access the file history.
Now I can just make whatever changes I want to this block. So it's going to be pretty useful to have a template if you're working on multiple different iterations of a part, to just have this as a starting point and be able to change and design without changing the base part that you're going to use to iterate off of. So yeah, so that was the sweep tool. That was the last major tool that we're going to be looking at today. Now what I want to go over really quickly is how to collaborate with different users when you have a project. So say I have my cube here and I want to share it with my friend. I'm going to go to Show Data Panel, and I'm going to go to People.
Yeah. You just click Manage.
And so I'm going to hit Manage Fusion and Manage in Fusion Team, and it's going to take me to the browser.
Try it more. It might.
Maybe it's loading. Maybe it'll take a while.
You could also do data. If you go back. If you
Oh,
right-click on
it's
it.
Internet Explorer. Okay. And so I can add members.
Manage. Okay. Invite.
I can just enter any of their emails in here. So and so whoever I add on this project will now be able to access it, the same part, and be able to make edits to it, and it'll be all saved in the cloud. So when someone makes an edit somewhere, it'll be reflected in that folder.
Got it.
I'm going to hit invite. Now, Jordan has access to modify my cube at his will, which is really exciting.
Yes. Another thing you can do is if you go back to Fusion, if you right click on the part.
That's
Well, no, you can do. Well, it doesn't.
I know.
Oh,
no, it doesn't. I have this.
You have it turned
I don't know.
on.
And so, I'm going to just show you this kind of collaboration in action. I'm going to sign into my other Fusion account. I think.
Do you share with yourself?
Do
you share with yourself?
Yeah. So I made this, let's back up. Made a project yesterday, little Tin Man, using the sweep feature. Now, say I want to, this is for a project, this is for a big project in one of my classes. Maybe CGT, we'll see. So I want to share this with my friend, my lab partner. There's another option. If you hit people, you can directly invite emails from here, so I can add my other account there, and I can hit invite. And so now, that other account I was working on will now be able to access Tin Man over here and be able to modify it. So yeah, and so I'm gonna just log back into my other one. And so if you look at the top right, when you hit data panel, you can see that I'm now a member of 2 different teams. If I go and hit the other team that I was invited to, I now have access to Tin Man. Now I can delete him if I want to. I probably will, because this will not get a passing grade. But I could, I can now, so you see it's like, essentially it's like the Google Drive of CAD. I can, okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a sketch. Oh no, we're not gonna do this, sorry. We're just gonna use the shell tool here. We're gonna put a little indent in Tin Man's stomach here.
Oh, that's his leg.
Never mind. You see what I'm going with here? I'm just trying to be funny, but
You do.
I can make whatever we're gonna.
You just do a rectangle and make extrude.
I'm just gonna make a little badge for him. You can do whatever. I'll just make him have this. I don't know, the third arm here.
Hold on now. Oh.
I can make him a little wider. The point is, these changes will be reflected on both users' ends, and this is super helpful if you're working on a CAD file with someone who's not in your immediate vicinity. If you do have the design projects, you can work on the same part, same project, all at once from different separate computers, which is very useful. And so
This is also specifically a great feature of Fusion because if you're using NX, which is what you'll have to use with CPT, all this like file sharing is a total pain. So one of the main advantages to Fusion is that you can work on teams and stuff.
So does this update in real time, or do you have to save it?
Yeah, so there's actually, you have to save for specific, like if you're sending individual files, oftentimes you'll have to save. But if you do like a special type of drive system, I think there is a way to get like it to change real time for the most part. But that's like, I think they still have like beta kind of testing things for that. So it's not like 100% in the program yet.
You also can't work on the same part like at the exact same time as someone else for obvious reasons. So if you're in a file that someone else is also working on, you'll start getting errors and stuff. So for the most part, if you're on a team, you just say, I'm going to work on this right now. You save it, and then they can start working on it after.
Yes.
and I can name the specific edits that I'm making. So here I just named it edit 1, but when you're working with a team, you can be more descriptive just so that they know what you did to the previous part. And this is what Jason was talking about, was you can go back and see what kind of edits that people have made to the project, the part, and just view it. So it's very intuitive.
People into the drop down, and then just version.
So now here it says version 2 or version 3. And we can see the different edits made by the different people. Those would be different people, but it's just me. But yeah. And so that's something that's very intuitive to Fusion. I know I learned CAD with Inventor, and this was definitely not in there. So this is something good about Fusion.
Yes. That's the whole reason we swapped from Inventor in the first place when I started. Well, we were in SolidWorks for this, but in high school.
Yeah. So it's great for collaborating, which is what hopefully a lot of you guys are going to be doing or are doing in the design teams. So it's good to know. Now, I mean, I could go back to the other account and show you that it edited, but I think I'm going to leave it. And so, yeah, that's all I have for today. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah. So hopefully, now that we've gone through all of the different tools you can use, you guys can start coming up with your own designs and be able to turn them from sketches into fully formed 3D models. All right. Well, that's it for this. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let any of us know. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next week.